Good evening. This is Duane Lowry for the DPP Grain Desk on Sunday, August 11th. It's currently about 4:05 in the afternoon. The outlook tonight is going to be largely focused on tomorrow's USDA reports. That being said, I think there's some weather spin that's changing. I think it was changing Friday, even though the market price action may not have reflected a change in weather spin. I think the weather spin is changing. There's not a lot of rain in the forecast through the next 10 days or 2 weeks. Temperatures remain cool through the next 10 days, a little bit of warmer outlook developing in the 11 to 15-day period. There's, depending on how one wants to look at it, there's at least a quarter of the Midwest acres that are suffering from dryness issues, maybe up to a third. You've got most acres are not going to receive rain during the next 2 weeks, so that areas of concern, it should be at least about a third, I would think, by the time we get through the next 10 days. You can argue about how much of an impact that has, but I think that the best way to analyze the impact of the dryness that we have now in the current forecast is to view it from the perspective and the perception that the market has already dialed in and what traders have already been trading. Trader sentiments completely universally bearish when it comes to corn, maybe a bit more two-sided when it comes to soybeans, but in the case of corn, very much a one-sided bearish thinking out here. A lot of discounting of bearish possibilities has already taken place. A lot of anticipation of maximum yield potential has already been discounted in the price action. We're oversold technically. We're overdue for some sort of corrective bounce. With December corn trade settling Friday at 4.53 and a quarter, to be able to rally 35, 45 cents from here is not an unreasonable possibility, and I think that's the type of thing we're looking at. Now, when you look at tomorrow's USDA reports, everybody expects bearish data. They expect large yields. They don't expect any bullish surprises in acreage. So the market has already dialed in a very bearish storyline. It's possible we get the type of figure from USDA to back that up. But here again, as soon as you get that report out, there's going to be people looking to buy this on any type of knee-jerk bearish reaction. And I think when you start to look at the soybeans, you have a situation where the report has opportunities to develop, offer some not-so-bearish or slightly bullish themes when it comes to soybeans. We could have acreage be smaller than what people think. We could find that USDA is cautious about being optimistic about soybean yields based on the late developing crop. So I think there's a lot of different things here that make the beans a little bit less one-sided. That being said, the recent washout we've had in beans has pushed all the bulls to the sidelines. Nobody wants to carry a position through this report, and yet here starting on Friday, and again with the weather forecast here tonight, I think there's a supportive theme. You know, here we are in the middle of August, and we've got a 2-week forecast with limited precip. I don't think that's good for a crop that is already slow in developing and needs to have everything work out well and needs to have a full and probably extended growing season in order to achieve the type of yields that the marketplace is currently factoring in. So that's still a lot of hurdles in front of the bean markets, still a lot of what-ifs, and the technical conditions are very oversold. So when you look at the markets here tonight, I think that some people will expect it to be quiet, anticipating tomorrow's reports. That's not an unreasonable expectation, but the market is so oversold, so much due for a corrective bounce. The weather spin is different. I think you're going to find some short covering activity tonight in front of tomorrow's reports. So I think the market will be well supported, but probably have a relatively firm tone. I don't see the markets being much weaker tonight at all, if at all. Now, when we go back and look at things from a farmer perspective here, I think there are a lot of people who wish they had more stuff sold. There were quite a few selling opportunities in the December, January, February, March window. Not so much for opportunities thereafter, at least not comfortable opportunities. And I think that there's a lot of people who wish they had more sold at the present time. But that being said, just to make a sale now, because all of a sudden it feels more confident that you're going to get a big crop, I'm not sure that's the proper way to approach this. I think you can still need to see some sort of a corrective rally before a guy gets anxious to make more sales. And I think in the case of beans, it's very difficult for me to get excited about making new crop corn sales with 450 futures or new crop bean sales with 1180 November futures here, when you've got a situation where we're going to be very vulnerable to some sort of frost talk or frost threat. We know that we have a lot of acres in the Midwest that are going to need a full season. We don't need an early frost date by any means. And I just don't think it's right to be looking to make sales here at current levels. Once you get a recovery going, then maybe that's a different thing, and maybe a guy has to evaluate it differently and be a little bit more proactive. But at current levels, I can't get very enthused about making additional sales here. So let's look for some sort of price recovery period ahead of us. Probably going to get some reaction, of course, from tomorrow's reports, but I think that it's going to be very difficult to get a bearish report that hasn't already been factored in and dialed into prices. And I think the traders are leaning very aggressively to the bear side here. That makes them very vulnerable to any type of surprise, either from the report or surprise in either price action. And maybe maybe the corn data will all be bearish, but maybe we'll get something supportive enough in beans. We've also got a somewhat of a supportive backdrop in wheat at current values. So I think there's reasons to be cautiously optimistic that we'll get better pricing opportunities before we go to harvest and from where we are at the present time. And I think that a guy tries to hold off on making any panic sales at current levels. For the DPP Grain Desk, this has been Duane Lowry. Thank you.